This is All India Radio. In the program Spotlight, now we bring you a discussion on labour reforms by government. The participants are Shankar Agrawal, former Secretary, Ministry of Labour and Employment, and Ruchika Chitravanshi, journalist.
We are discussing a very important aspect of our economy, labor. Now, labor is something that has been in news for the past more than 1 year, with so many developments that have taken place in terms of labor reforms, in terms of labor welfare schemes that the government has launched. We will start by talking about something that is more recent, about 5 million or 50 lakh unorganized workers who have registered on the eShram portal. Can you tell us a little bit about what this initiative is, who it helps, and how do you see it evolving going forward?
eShram portal, through which we are getting the unorganized sector workers registered. For the organized sector worker, it was very easy because they are part of the EPFO and ESIC, and moreover, their employer being in the organized sector, they had every record of the worker. So, whenever we create any welfare scheme for the benefit of workers, they were able to get all these benefits to a large extent. However, when we talk about workers from the unorganized sector, because they did not have any wherewithal to get themselves registered on a centralized platform, they were not getting the benefit which were initiated by the various governments, and especially this government, for the benefit of unorganized workers. So this matter was in the Supreme Court also, and Supreme Court said ultimately that each and every worker from the unorganized sector has to be registered, because that's the first point to ensure that they get their due. And that's why this eShram portal has been created. And idea is to take advantage of the common service centers which are spread across more than 2.50 lakh panchayats. And with the help of those panchayats, it was expected that we will be able to enroll all the workers from unorganized sector. Thereafter, they can get some kind of a unique number, and on the basis of that unique number, including that of Aadhaar number, they can take advantage of various welfare, whether it is pension scheme, whether it is healthcare scheme, or scheme for the education of their children, or any other such scheme, even for ration and things like that. Because unless your data, there will always be dispute whether the workers have been given their due or not. And that's why once we create this data of all the workers from unorganized sector, then anybody can go to the portal and can find out whether he has availed the benefit which has been intended for his or her benefit.
Now, India has taken many steps in the last year. We have consolidated 20 laws in industrial relations, occupational safety, and social security. Now, the Parliament has passed the laws, but they are yet to be rolled out. What is it that is being a hurdle in the rollout of these laws? And also, are there any concerns that still need to be addressed for a smoother rollout?
There were 44 central labor laws which have been replaced by 4 labor codes. Like one labor code is on wages, one labor code is on social security, one labor code is on working conditions and health, and one is basically on the industrial relations. So that is the first one. Secondly, while creating these 4 codes, a fine balance has been created. Sometimes it appears to be 2 different sides of the problem. One basically for the worker and one for the employee. However, if you look rather carefully, you will find that all these 2 sides, worker and employee, they are on the fun side. Because unless you create employment opportunities, you will not have the workers. And unless the workers are there, you will not have any enterprise which can run successfully. In these 4 labor codes, what has been done, that the rights of the labor, and when we say labor, it is primarily the organized sector, because for the unorganized sector, it was very difficult to get the benefit of all these labor laws. And now, with the help of these portals, they will be able to get their dues. They'll be able to get their rights under the labor law. So, what has been done, that the rights of the labor has been ensured in these 4 labor codes. For every worker, now it is a matter of right to demand minimum wages. And not only that, for the entire nation, there will be a floor minimum wage. Secondly, the women have been allowed to work in orchards as long as the safety and security is ensured. There were a lot of irregularities which were being committed by the enforcement agencies, and at will they were opening the cases against the employer 20 years, 10 years, 15 years, and that kind of thing. So now it has been put to rest, and no case which is more than, I think, 5 years cannot be reopened. So that's a big relief to the employer. And for employer, there is one more big thing, which is a fixed term employment. Earlier, the employer could not engage a worker on a fixed term employment. Meaning thereby, if the employer has to have, suppose, some kind of a designer, and designer is required only for 6 months, he had to be employed for all time to come as a permanent employee. That was putting a lot of pressure on the employer because he needs him only for 6 months. So now it has been allowed that he can engage an expert or a designer or such kind of people only for 6 months. So that gives them flexibility. So all these things have been looked into and have created a very fine balance between the rights of the worker and the aspiration, expectation and the flexibility for the employer. Though these have been passed by the parliament, then what is the hitch now? Why these are not being rolled out? Problem is that we require that state governments have to come on board. And many of these rules and regulations had to be put in place by the state government. So state governments have been requested to look into the law and then create a framework of rules and regulations so that these laws can become meaningful and can be implemented in a transparent manner. But since the state governments take a little bit of time, they have got their own system, and maybe there are some conflicting interests, a particular state may not be interested in giving minimum wages. So they make that kind of a change. So that's why there is a little bit of delay, but ultimately this will see the light at the end of the day and whole lot of people will get benefited.
Mr. Agarwal, the codes are sort of tilted in favor of the industry. How much merit do you see in that concern of trade unions? And is government doing something to address these concerns as well?
First, I do not agree with the labor union that this is loaded in favor of industry or the employees. They have been able to strike a very fine balance. Number one. Number two, you see, all these labor unions are very competitive in nature. All these would like to raise voices so that they would appear to be working for the benefit of workers. As I said, yes, there is a little bit of more flexibility given to the employer. But on the other hand, the rights of the worker have been protected to a larger extent also. So in everyday life, there is nothing like a black and white. There will always be a shades of gray, and we have to strike a fine and balance. Third, ultimately, you got to create awareness about these labor laws in the entire country amongst workers, amongst employees, amongst civil society, and then it will create some kind of a pressure for faster adoption.
So, other thing that is important to talk about, since pandemic has had its own set of challenges for laborers, whether it is migrant workers, and obviously now we have the whole work from home happening. People are trying to spur the gig economy, and the code does talk about the gig economy, and it does talk about the migrant worker scenario as well. Can you tell us a little bit about what is it that we are offering to these particular sections? And especially in light of pandemic, can you tell us a little bit what are these codes offering?
So let's look into the pandemic. Because of pandemic, whole lot of people went back to their villages. Why? Because during that pandemic, everything was brought to a grinding halt. So suppose I'm working in Delhi, but my employer has shut down his enterprise. Naturally, I'll not get any work. Moreover, if he is not earning money, he cannot support me for long. And secondly, there was a fear of spread of epidemic to every nook and corner. They thought that it would be a good idea to go back to the villages. And when the things normalize, they would come back. Lot of small restaurants, dhabas, lot of small enterprises, they are closed down for all time to come. Now the workers who are working there, and they were primarily in the unorganized sector, they have got a job. And unless we create a decent housing for the workers, it would be rather difficult. If you look into their housing, they live in unhealthy conditions. We got to create a mechanism, and this has to be held by the government, so that workers get decent housing, they have got access to good quality drinking water, access to clean and hygienic toilets, access to health facilities. Once we create that infrastructure, lot of people, lot of workers would like to come back and work here and happily, and their productivity would also be high.
The state of the economy in terms of unemployment and of course the participation of male and female workforce in the overall employment scenario of India. Can you shed a little bit of light on that situation and how has it evolved? There are concerns of unemployment because of the pandemic as well. Now that the economy is sort of getting back on track, how do you see these numbers improving?
In the earlier time, lot of workers, women, in rural area, they used to study up to class 4, 5, 3, 2 kind of thing. And then they were working in the field. Most of them are 12th pass, BA pass, and that kind of thing. And they refuse to work in the field. So that's why their participation in the labor force was declining. On the other hand, they were not getting decent, meaningful, respectful jobs in organized sector and better area. Second problem was for them to move from villages to town. They did not have the housing facility and a whole lot of other issues. Now, if they are allowed to work from home, because good quality connectivity is available in smaller towns and even in villages, surely they can get trained in the urban area. They can go to the district headquarters or to the town once a week or twice a week, and for the balance period they can work from home. And ultimately, it will create further more opportunities of employment for everyone, especially for the women. Only one more thing, like in labor law, what we have done, that the maternity benefit leave has been increased from 12 weeks to 26 weeks. Now, this, many of the employers are feeling is a burden on them. But slowly, and the way that they would relax, if they are able to retain good talent because of this, it will be much more beneficial than letting her go for 26 weeks. And all over the world this is happening.
Before we close, Mr. Agarwal, I have to touch upon the BRICS Labour and Employment Ministers meeting that was organized by India to exchange views on the impact of COVID-19 on the global labour market, for enhanced information sharing, etc. And one of the significant aspects of this meeting was the adoption of the BRICS Labour and Employment Ministers Declaration. Can you tell us a little bit about what this declaration entails and what it means for India's labour?
What I know, that somebody is working in US, and if he or she comes back to India, he or she as of now has to forego the benefit or the money which had been deposited in the provident fund of that particular worker. So we are working on that. That is one part. And secondly, working conditions should be hygienic, facilities for canteen, for washrooms, and ultimately we must have a very robust social security, not only for the organized worker, but for the unorganized worker. We should move from informal economy to formal economy. That means from unorganized sector to organized sector. It's a long journey because India is a unique country where most of the workers are in unorganized sector. It will take some time, but as the first step has already been taken of enrollment of workers from the unorganized sector through e-Shram portal, surely this will benefit a lot of workers.
A lot of policy interventions have taken place in the policy space for the labour, whether it is the e-Shram portal or the new labour code. As India aspires to become a part of the global supply chain, and of course, if the Atmanirbhar Bharat has to become a reality, then labour is a very important part of this puzzle. As Mr. Shankar Agarwal has rightly pointed out, that states also have to do their part now. With the economy picking up gradually, here's hoping that labour issues of our country will also get ironed out. Thank you so much, Mr. Agarwal, for joining us today and sharing your very valuable insights.
You were listening to a discussion on labour reforms by government. The participants were Shankar Agarwal, former Secretary, Ministry of Labour and Employment, and Ruchika Chitravanshi, journalist. This program was produced and presented by the News Services Division of All India Radio. You can listen to it on our mobile app, News on AIR. This program is also available on our YouTube channel, News on AIR Official. You may email your opinion about this program at airnsdtalks@gmail.com.